So I'll see you guys tomorrow night. I've got some scary movies all picked out. My mom said we can order pizza.
I hope we're not getting it at the same place you got it last time. That tasted like cardboard.
Really? Well, we can order from wherever you want.
And I'll pick a movie that might actually scare somebody. You always pick out dumb stuff.
Well, I gotta go. Okay, see you tomorrow.
It would be so funny if no one showed up at our house tomorrow. Everyone should come to my house instead.
And then go to our house?
No, stay at my house.
Cassie, she's planning for us to come over. It'd be mean.
Not really, it'll be fun. I'm sick of her anyways. All she talks about is how she made it to the finals in gymnastics.
A child who is being bullied doesn't always come home with a black eye. Bullying can be subtle. It can be an effort by someone to humiliate or exercise power over someone else. Girls especially will bully in this way. Boys are more likely to get physically aggressive.
But whether it's verbal or physical, young teens need to be told by their parents that it's wrong. They need to begin to understand how hurtful and harmful it can be.
In this program, we're going to look at some of the more subtle forms of bullying as well as the physical kind and see how parents can use different skills to help teens understand and better handle it.
You'll learn to recognize the warning signs that your teen is being bullied and how you can intervene before it gets out of hand. Kids who feel empowered know how to stand up to a bully and also how to resist when the bully pressures them to join in against another child who's being targeted.
When we get to the middle school years, bullying becomes a little bit more complicated and a little bit more difficult to detect sometimes because we don't necessarily have the obvious, overt physical aggression, you know, the bully who's, you know, coercing people and trying to take their lunch money. So what happens that also complicates things is that adolescents are developing abstract thinking abilities and all these kind of really great cognitive abilities and skills, and so they try out sarcasm for the first time. So they tend to say things at times that seem sort of mean, but it's often more a reflection of how cool and clever they are, rather than really an intent to do harm to others. And so sometimes parents have to help kids understand that while they may have not intended to do somebody any harm by making a joke or saying something mean about them or calling them a name or thinking they're being funny, sometimes kids who take it one and then two and then a third step too far. Parents have to kind of watch that and say, you need to reel that back in because I think you actually hurt somebody's feelings and you're starting to really, what happens, kind of target a kid in the group to be the victim.
It's important to share your values and tell young teens why it's always wrong to hurt another human being deliberately.
Tell them other ways they can achieve status in the eyes of peers or get the attention they want and need.
Teens sometimes rationalize bullying by saying it's a joke. Tell them it's not a joke.
I think what parents need to know is that if they have a child in elementary school who's a confident kid and has friends and has good social skills, they will make this transition fine. You know, it's awkward, there's moments, there's dips, whatever. I think what's more important is if you know you have a kid who's anxious, who tends to be withdrawn or isolated, who worries a lot, you know, who doesn't have fabulous social skills, you have to be a little bit more on guard for that in terms of realizing that they could then put themselves in a position to be targeted. What do you do as a parent? You have to keep working on building that kid's self-esteem.
The humiliation of being bullied is enormous. Middle schoolers are becoming very aware of their status among their peers, and it's critical to their self-esteem to be well regarded by peers.
This kind of humiliation and feelings of powerlessness it causes can result in explosive anger and has been cited by teens as a motivating factor in violent gun incidents around the country.
Bullying has also been linked to depression and suicidal behavior.
Kids who are chronic victims of aggression, and about 10% of children and adolescents are thought to be chronic victims of aggression, can develop a variety of problems, obviously. Kids are depressed, kids are anxious, they become isolated, they can become withdrawn. become isolated and withdrawn. That means you're not going to develop friendships, which means you're not going to have the social skills to be able to help you handle, the aggression that you're trying to deal with. Obviously, as kids get older, they can get involved with things like substance abuse, anything to try to help them cope with the pain. But the isolating and withdrawing is what's going to lead to poor choices, things that are happening that are negative. And obviously, throughout, development, childhood through adolescence, the development of self-esteem and your identity are all happening. If you're chronically victimized, you always feel that you're the victim. You can develop a victim identity, which puts you in a position to be in harm's way for a lot of other things that'll happen in your life. Kind of keep your head down and assume the worst is going to happen. So it starts to influence who you are as an individual.
Among young people, there exists a wall of silence, inspired by the belief that reporting bullying will only make things worse, that parents can't help them, that they will look like a snitch or reveal themselves to be weak or unable to stand up for themselves.
And teens often won't tell their own parents for all the same reasons.
Witnessing bullying is very upsetting to young teens, most of whom feel powerless to do anything.
You can't fight your middle school child's battles for him or her. That's not appropriate anymore. And here is where we're back to this transitional period. In elementary school, teachers and parents start to tell kids, use your own words, work it out yourself, don't tell me about it. The teacher will often say, don't tell me about it. The two of you go over there and work it out yourselves. These are skills that kids are supposed to have as they enter middle school. They should be able to speak up for themselves and say what they need to say and talk back.
Guys, I'm so excited about Amy's party. It's gonna be so much fun. I can't stand Amy ever since she won that tournament. She was so stuck up.
I don't know. She's happy she won. That's all.
You always defend her. Anna, don't you think Amy's getting to be a snob?
I don't know. Maybe a little.
Are you going to be a snob now too?
No, I was just saying.
Amy's a snob.
Becky really needs to talk about the fact that Cassie is trying to get her and Anna to ostracize Amy.
This kind of power play is the kind of bullying you might expect to see with girls, and if you miss its significance, you may minimize its seriousness.
In the scenario presented in the film with Cassie, this is a really overt, obvious form of relational aggression, where Cassie is quite definitely determined to undermine Amy. And she's telling these girls flat out, let's not go to her house, and wouldn't this be funny, and let's not this, and let's not that. And so, there's no subtlety here, and parents should be able to pick up on that pretty clearly, that there's no reason ever to do that.
Cassie is trying to marginalize Amy socially, and teens who are targeted in this way are at risk for depression and even suicide.
Becky's mother needs to approach her without sounding accusing or negative. She's going to stay positive and make some observations without criticizing.
I guess Cassie is mad at Amy.
Yeah, she thinks she's a snob.
Do you think that too?
No.
Why do you think Cassie is trying to turn you and Anna against Amy?
I don't know. It bothers me too. We're all friends.
Maybe Cassie is a little jealous that Amy won that tournament.
Yeah, that's when everything started to change.
You know, Becky, you and Anna have a right to your own opinion. You don't have to go along with Cassie.
She makes it so hard if we don't.
If you and Anna stick together on this, Cassie would be outnumbered. Maybe she'd stop.
Maybe. I guess I'll talk to Anna and see if she wants to try to get Cassie to stop.
Remember, everyone has a right to their own opinion. If a person tries to put you down for it or control you, that's bullying.
I never thought of it that way.
I think Becky's mother made a couple of good choices. The first thing was to kind of stay quiet and listen in the car and kind of gather information and not react right there in the car from the front seat, kind of turn around and get into a discussion with the girls about it. So that was good to kind of think about it, reflect on it. Then she obviously, the second thing she did was try to find a moment where she could kind of talk alone with her daughter and say, what's going on there and what's happening, and point out to her that, she has choices and that she should stand up for the things that she believes in.
Becky's mother asked questions to get Becky to think about what was happening.
By staying positive and making observations, Becky's mother can get Becky to open up and listen to what her mother has to say.
When you stay positive and refrain from sounding judgmental about a friend, your middle schooler won't feel the need to automatically defend the friend.
She will be able to hear what you have to say. All of this empowers the teen to think about the issue and begin to understand what is happening.
When Becky's mother encourages her to stand up for herself, I think it's important that kids know that sometimes it can be just one voice that says, no, this is wrong, and puts a stop to it. Because there is a little bit of something about a crowd mentality that goes on in all over the world. You know, a couple of kids get together and sort of get involved in something and didn't mean it, and then sort of back up later on and say, geez, I don't even know how that started, and now when I think about it, I wish I hadn't been part of it.
When you talk to your middle schooler about sensitive subjects and want to make sure you don't sound judgmental to them, try using I messages. That's when you say, I'm concerned about how Cassie talks to you, or I'm worried about how Cassie is acting. I messages keep the focus on your feelings and concerns. You won't look like you're pointing the finger at anyone.
I know you and Cassie are friends, and you really like her. Sometimes I wonder about her, though.
What do you mean?
I noticed that she tries to tell you what to do sometimes.
Yeah, it gets on my nerves.
Everyone has a right to express an opinion without being put down.
Yeah. Sometimes she tries to make me do what she wants, but I don't have to.
Becky is also learning that she has a right to assert herself, and nothing is more empowering. She doesn't have to let Cassie run the show, especially when it means doing things that Becky doesn't want to do.
Parents can continue to do what they've done in terms of empowering their child by showing them that they have confidence in them and their ability to make decisions. A lot of this is done, again, by not micromanaging your child's life, by being the guide, you know, and saying, here's some good ideas, here's what I'd recommend, here's what I suggest, and then watching how your child takes to that. Some kids will be incredibly organized and have the folders and the work and the kids and know who to socialize with. Other kids are not going to do so well with it, and you'll be watching that. So your job, again, is you're on the sidelines. You start to see them falter, you do have to step in and intervene. But again, it's more in terms of saying, I noticed that this is not going so well. Here's some suggestions of how, if I were you, I might take.
We mentioned earlier how it's important to recognize the signs your child is being bullied.
There may be subtle signs of bullying, such as complaining about school or angry outbursts. But if your middle schooler suddenly doesn't want to go to school,